What's up, everybody? Today we're going to do a different type of build which doesn't involve enclosing our pumpkin or melon farms in a greenhouse, and it doesn't require a minecart. This is more of a expandable type of build that you can build that produces a lot of produce as well. But before we get started, I want to take a look at just a few things. I did a couple of experiments a long time ago, and they've been sitting here in this world, and we're finally getting around to them. For pumpkins and melons, you can kind of see that there are two aspects of them. There's the melon or pumpkin itself, and then there's the vine. They both have individual properties that we need to think about when building either a greenhouse or a farm that involves pumpkins or melons. As you can see here, I placed various other blocks above the stems. Now, above the pumpkins or melons, there's nothing here. We'll get to that. But for the stems itself, I've placed various things above it, and you can see that, well, they're influenced by different things. So you can see that a block, or a stair, or a slab, or even an observer directly above the stem will not allow it to grow. These have been here for months now, and they still have not grown. But then again, there's other blocks like pistons, sea lanterns, glass, hoppers, leaves that are placed directly above them, and they do grow. They've produced pumpkins or melons, depending on what I would have placed here. But you can see here, for a block that wouldn't allow it to grow, you would have to place it one higher so that there's a gap of air in between the stem and the block, and that actually allowed it to grow. Now, on the other side of things, the melons or the pumpkins, there's some things that will allow them to grow, and for the most part, it seems like most things will allow the pumpkins or melons to grow. On this side, there is nothing above the stems, and that basically allows the pumpkins to grow under anything, it seems like. Half slabs, walls, luminescent blocks, glass, solid blocks, redstone blocks like the observer, pistons, hoppers, chests, I mean anything. It seems like they were growing just fine, and they did just that. So the main concern, really, it seems like, be careful what you put above the stems, because that may hinder the growth of the produce. So after viewing these things here, I think it's just a note to just be careful when you're building stuff, and do some tests of your own to see how or what blocks will affect your farms. You're trying to build something compact. So here's a good example, and this is the pumpkin farm or melon farm that we are going to grow today. This is a expandable design. It is a vertical design, and you can expand this horizontally or vertically. Something to consider, and something that you're probably noticing right away, is there's a gap here. Down below, I've placed melons. They should be melons. Yep, melons. And we'll see in the collection chest that we haven't been collecting a single melon. And that's because, well, we have the dirt block directly above the stem. Now, I hit these with bone meal to make them grow so that they try to at least produce melons, but they haven't been. Haven't been at all, just because that dirt block is directly above the stem. On the upper level, we see that we have pumpkins, and that's how I did this test. This level has the air block space above the stem, and that's why we're getting so many pumpkins. The stem isn't being influenced by a block that won't allow it to grow. Now, there's two ways, or several ways, that you can actually go about building this design. The upper way, which makes the pistons work individually or just by any section that grows, or you can just have one simple observer like I have down here below that will pay attention to only one stem. So that will only fire off the farm when that one pumpkin or melon grows, versus the top, which will fire off anytime any pumpkin or melon grows. So there's different ways that you guys can build this. Okay, so to get started with our vertical pumpkin or melon farm, what you're going to do is place down 8 blocks of your choice. 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to place down some glass. It doesn't have to be glass. This can be another iron block or wood block or whatever, but I just like using the glass so I can see the water that we're going to be placing inside. Then on the opposite side, we're going to place down the farmland blocks. I need to get some water because those will turn into dirt blocks if I don't place this down. There you go. That'll moisten the land here, make it easy for us to grow. And then on the back side here, I'm going to place down, let's see, a piston there. I'm going to place down 4 pistons, and that's going to be every other block. So 1, 2, there you go, 3, 4. Okay, so right now we're actually going to build one version, which is going to be the single observer version. So for that, what you'll do is place down glass blocks or other blocks of your choice. I'm just going to put down glass because that way you can see, I guess, the water. I like just being able to see stuff like that. I'm going to place down, let's see, another dirt block. Actually, no, I don't. Yeah, I'm going to place down a dirt block there with an observer peeking into where we're going to place the stems. So the stems are going to go where the glass is. Just like that. Okay, once you have that down in place, I'm just going to run 4 more blocks into the backside here. And once you've ran those 4 blocks, you're going to put additional blocks behind the pistons. Just like that. Take some redstone dust and you can loop that around over top the blocks, and those will fire off anytime the observer goes off. So for example, if we were to get some bone meal here and make one of these stems grow, boom, you can see that. Let's see if I can get a better angle at that. Alright, and then you can expand this as long as you want. If you get to a point where the redstone signal is no longer firing a piston, what you're going to want to do is on the bottom block in between pistons, you're just going to place down a repeater and then continue the redstone line. And you're going to do that for every time the signal doesn't reach the next spot of redstone. So now if I were to, let's see, fire this off, you can see that it has reached the other set of pistons. And that's kind of the idea in order to expand this horizontally. Okay, so this first layer is actually how you would build it if you want to use the single observer method. For the second layer, I'm actually going to show you the method that uses multiple observers. Now we know that we cannot place farmland block at this level. Actually, let's use the farmland block so it's more clear. You cannot place this here. This is going to prevent that stem from producing any pumpkins or melons. So what you want to do is actually place the farmland block one higher at this level. That also means that here you're going to place down sea lanterns or glowstone or glass or whatever block you want. I prefer using sea lanterns so it kind of provides some lighting. And that is also going to serve for the bottom of our trench where the water is going to go. So on the back side here, I'm just going to grab another block, extend that out over top of the redstone line. And I'm going to get a glass block, place that here for the time being, and right there. And then I'm going to get more farmland block and just run that across the top. And there's our trench for the water. So place water inside of that. There you go. Now you've got the base for the second level. So if you were going to build this as you did at the bottom, same thing. You would just place an observer looking into the first stem. That's all. And then you would build the pistons just like you did, and the redstone line just like you did, or what have you. At this point, you don't really need to run a redstone line up into this observer. In fact, you don't really need to run a redstone line up above either way because each layer of the farm can take care of itself. But for this second layer, I'm actually going to show you the multiple observer method. I'm going to temporarily place a line of blocks right there. That way I can place some pistons down against those blocks. So grab some normal pistons, and I would say at the same starting point as the bottom piston, place down a piston, line it up with the bottom farm, just like that. Now you can actually get rid of those blocks. I'm going to grab some observers and place that looking onto the farmland blocks like this. Great. And then all you got to do is put blocks down behind the pistons. And then run some redstone. Once you have that in place, all you got to do is grab some pumpkin or melon seeds, place those in front of the observers, and as you can see, as I'm placing them down, it is firing off where the pumpkins would grow. So if we were to bone meal this right now, you can see it spout out a pumpkin. But we know that it works already. Actually, I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to do this. If you wanted to expand this top version of the farm, same thing. Extend this out. I'm going to extend it 3 blocks, so it's like this little mini L. Put a piston off of that one. You're going to come from the back side, put an observer in between, and then just continue to run the redstone. So it's very easily expandable, as you saw. Then, of course, you'd have more farmland blocks this way, with the trench continuing this way and the water continuing. So very easily expandable. So as you can see, we place down a pumpkin seed to grow and it fires off that piston. So it works very, very easily. So now you're getting to the part where you need to collect these pumpkins. And the best way to do that is either place a chest on one side or the other. It doesn't matter which side. You can place one down right here, double chest. And then you can run a line of hoppers across the front of the bottom of the farm. Just like that. That way, anytime a pumpkin, see if we can actually simulate this. That was a bad spot. Let's do it right here in the center. So the pumpkins will drop off. And as you're seeing, they're going a little too far. So what you would also want to do is run some type of glass wall, preferably maybe clear glass, along the front of the hoppers here, and you're going to build this as high as the farm. The reason you're going to do this is it will prevent the pumpkins from jumping out too far. You have pumpkin here, you have pumpkin here, you have a pumpkin here, and let's just put a piece of seed here. Now you saw that they fell and they hit the hoppers. That means we should have 2 or 3 of them, there you go, in the chest. And that's what you want. The glass wall in front will prevent the pumpkins from jumping out too far. Now you see at the bottom farm, this is the lazier farm because you have a pumpkin that grew there, but that's not going to get hit until this observer or this pumpkin grows here. That's the difference between the bottom layer and the top layer. This will activate every single time a pumpkin is grown. The bottom layer will wait for all of the pumpkins to grow, and then whenever this one grows is when it will fire off. Now the other method that you may want to use, which will be less costly, is this one. You're going to place a double chest in the ground, and then you're going to place down, for I guess secure reasons, you're going to place down a hopper line of just 3 hoppers going right into that chest there. Now I'm going to place, let's see, I'm going to grab some stairs, any kind, and you're going to place 1 stair with the back side facing the hoppers, and then you're going to loop it around right there. So you can still access the chest like this, but pumpkins won't be flying through a hole that would be available right there. I'm actually going to get rid of this first one so you can see better. So this one's turning the corner, essentially. And then what you'll do is get a water bucket, place that there, place that there so we don't get washed away. And you can see now that the water is going to carry the pumpkins this way onto the hoppers, which will be picked up by the chest. And we can simulate that, placing down some pumpkins here, and we'll place a pumpkin seed here, just like that. Works really, really well, and it's a lot cheaper than building tons of hoppers. We look in our chest, and we've got more pumpkins in there. Real quick guys, on the bottom farm, it's probably not a bad idea to include a second observer, and I'm going to show you where to place that. Why I'm recommending this is because this second stem has the option of either growing a pumpkin here or a pumpkin here. So if it does grow the pumpkin in this spot, second stem, that means that this stem here will not be able to grow a pumpkin anywhere, which means it'll never change state to set off the farm. So as a safety net, I would probably recommend placing a second observer right here in between the first 2 pistons. That way, no matter which stem kicks off this starting pumpkin, you have a backup plan. The second thing I do want to recommend is I would actually remove this observer here and get rid of all of this here. And then just place the first observer looking into the first stem right there. And that way you get a more compact design. And that's all it really takes. It's really easy to expand. Every time you expand, be sure that you're providing this gap space above the pumpkins and stems because you want this to grow. Each layer can take care of itself. You can interchange the layers like I have here, or you can build the bottom type or the top type consecutively throughout the farm. It's a great farm. It produces tons of pumpkins, as you saw earlier. You can decorate this very easily. It's only 4 blocks wide, so it doesn't take a lot of depth to build this. Drop me some likes if you like this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments field below. I'd love to hear about how you guys incorporated this farm into your builds, and subscribe because I've got a lot of other designs coming up ahead. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and until next time, I'll see you all later.